I request all of you to maintain silence, please. And since I have given a little brief of Sri Arimalam Padmanabham, I request the students to please felicitate him with a memento and uttariya. Now I request Sri Arimalam Padmanabhan, who is going to talk about knowledge forms in drama and music. Every speaker will be given 10 minutes of time, and in the last we will see if we have time for interaction or some questions. Sir, please.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். தமிழகத்திலிருந்து வருகை புரிந்தவர்களுக்கான ஒரு தகவல். நான் தமிழகத்திலே பிறந்து வளர்ந்து புதுச்சேரியில் வாழ்ந்து கொண்டிருக்கும் இசைக்கலைஞர், ஆராய்ச்சியாளர். இந்த ஒரு அருமையான காலை பொழுதில் மத்திய நிதி அமைச்சர் அவர்கள், தமிழகத்தை சார்ந்தவர்கள் அருமையானது ஒரு உரையை நிகழ்த்தி சென்றிருக்கின்ற அதனுடைய தொடர்ச்சியாக இந்த அமர்வு நடைபெறுகிறது. நான் ஒரு சில பாடல்கள், சில நம்முடைய தமிழ் மரபு எவ்வாறு உலகம் அளவுக்கு போயிருக்கு அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு சின்ன தகவல்களை சொல்லி நான் நிறைவு செய்வேன். அதற்காக நான் சிலப்பதிகாரத்தை மட்டும் எடுத்துக்கொண்டிருக்கிறேன். அதற்கு முன்னதாக இந்த பாரதி சொன்ன தேமதுர தமிழோசை, தேமதுர தமிழோசை உலகமெல்லாம் பரவும் வகை செய்தல் வேண்டும். தேமதுர தமிழோசை உலகமெல்லாம் பரவும் வகை செய்தல் வேண்டும். அந்த தேமதுர தமிழோசை உலகமெல்லாம் பரவும் வகையாக இந்த காசி தமிழ் சங்கமம் தொடர்ந்து பொழுது அற்புதமாக நடந்து கொண்டிருக்கின்றது. இந்த வேளையில் நம்முடைய தொல் தமிழ் இசை, தொல் தமிழ் மரபு, கூத்து, அது பற்றிய பேச வேண்டியது எனக்கு 10 நாட்கள் பேச வேண்டிய ஒரு தலைப்பு 10 நிமிடங்கள் ஒதுக்கப்பட்டிருக்கின்றதால் எவ்வளவு சுருக்கமாக முடியுமோ நான் சொல்லி நிறைவு செய்கிறேன். எப்பொழுதும் நமக்கு பாரம்பரியம் என்று சொல்லலாம். ஹெரிட்டேஜ் என்பது பாரம்பரியம் அல்லது மரபு என்று சொல்லலாம். அந்த பாரம்பரியம் நம்ம இசையை தொடங்கும் பொழுது எப்பவும் விநாயகர் துதியோடு, அது கூத்தாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, நடன நிகழ்வாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, அல்லது இசை நிகழ்ச்சியாக இருந்தாலும் சரி. எனவே நானும் அந்த விநாயகர் துதியோடு தொடங்குகின்றேன். பாலும் தெளிதேனும் பாகும் பருப்பும் இவை பாலும் தெளித்தேனும் பாகும் பருப்பும் இவை நாளும் கலந்து உனக்கு நான் தருவேன் கோலம் செய் துங்க கரிமுகத்து தூமணியே கோலம் செய் துங்க கரிமுகத்து தூமணியே நீ எனக்கு சங்கத்தமிழ் மூன்றும் தா நீ எனக்கு சங்கத்தமிழ் மூன்றும் தா. அது தமிழ் சங்கம், இது தமிழ் சங்கமம். இங்கே முத்தமிழை கேட்கிறார். 3 சங்கங்கள் நடத்திய முத்தமிழ். அதில் முத்தமிழில் முதலிலே நான் இசைத்தமிழை பற்றி முதலிலே சொல்ல இருக்கிறேன். இதில் ஒரு செய்தி, இந்த டெம்பிள் இதை நடக்கும் பொழுது டெம்பிள் ஆர்கிடெக்சர் என்ற இந்த அரங்குக்குள்ளே என்ன இசைக்கு நாடகத்துக்கு ஏன் வந்தேன் அப்படின்னா, இந்த கலைகள் தொடங்கி ஆதரிக்கப்பட்ட இடம் கோயில்கள், திருக்கோயில்கள். நீங்கள் எந்த திருக்கோயில் சிற்பத்திலையும் நடன சிற்பங்களோ பாடக்கூடிய கருவிகள் இசைக்கருவிகள் இல்லாத எந்த சிற்பத்தையும் எந்த கோவில்லையும் நீங்கள் பார்க்க முடியாது, எவ்வளோ சிறிய கோவிலில் இருந்தாலும். அதனால் கலைகள் பிறந்த இடமே கோயில்கள் தான். அங்கே தான் நடந்ததும் அங்கே தான். பிற்காலத்தில் தான் எல்லாம் ஒரு கச்சேரி மேடை அந்த மாதிரிலாம் வந்தது. இந்த வகையில் ஒரு பாரம்பரியத்தை பற்றி நான் இங்கு மரபை பற்றி சொல்லும் பொழுது காணல் வரியிலேருந்து ஒரே ஒரு விஷயம் சொல்கிறேன். இது இசை தொடர்பானது. நாம் இப்போ இசைக்கருவிகள் அப்படின்னு சொன்னால் ஒரு வீணை அப்படின்னா அதை ஒரு வயலின் வாசிக்கிறவர் வீணை வாசிக்கிறோம், அதை எவ்வளோ பத்திரமா அதை காப்பாற்றணும், அதுக்கு எவ்வளோ மரியாதை கொடுக்க வேண்டும் என்பதெல்லாம் இப்போ நமக்கு சொல்லப்படுகிறது. குரு சொல்லி கொடுக்குறாரு, அது இல்லாத நம்முடைய பெரியவங்க சொல்லி கொடுக்குறாங்க. இதை பற்றி சிலப்பதிகாரத்தில் யாழை பற்றி மாதவி எப்படி அந்த யாழுக்கு மரியாதை கொடுக்கிறாள், ஒரு கருவியை எவ்வாறு நம்ம இதான் நாலெட்ஜுன்னு சொல்லியிருக்கேன். எனக்கு இங்கே சொல்லப்பட்டிருக்கிற தலைப்பு நாலெட்ஜ். ஸோ அதில் என்ன நாலெட்ஜ் நமக்கு கிடைக்கிறது அப்படின்னு பார்க்கும் பொழுது, இதை 2000 வருடங்களுக்கு முன்னாலேயே நம்ம எப்படி அவங்க அந்த பாரம்பரியத்தில் நம்ம வரோம், நம்ம அணுக்கள்லாம் அது இருக்குது அப்படிங்கிறது தான் என்ன நான் கொடுக்க வேண்டிய செய்தி. இதில் காணல் வரியில் கோவலனும் கண்ணகியும் பாடுறதுக்காக கடற்கரையில் போய் புகாரில் உட்காந்துருக்காங்க, பூம்புகார் கடற்கரையில். அங்கே யாழ் எடுத்து அவங்க பாட போகிறாங்க. அந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை வர்ணிக்கிறார் இளங்கோடிகள். முதல்ல யாழை பற்றி சொல்கிற வர்ணனை பாருங்க. அதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த யாழை எப்படி முதல்ல சுதி சேர்க்கணும், அதுக்கப்புறம் எப்படி அதை வாசிக்கணும், அதை எவ்வளவு மரியாதை அதுக்கு கொடுக்கணும் என்பதெல்லாம் இதில் சொல்லப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. ஏன்னா சிலப்பதிகார கதை நமக்கெல்லாம் தெரியும். அந்த பாடி முடிக்கிற பொழுது தான் 2 பேரும் பிரியிறாங்க. அது ஏன் பிரியிறாங்கன்ற நுணுக்கம் வரைக்கும் இதில் சொல்லப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. அதுதான் இங்கே முக்கியமான செய்தி. இங்கே அந்த காணல்வருடைய தொடக்கமும் இதுதான். இப்போ நான் முதல்ல படிக்கிறது யாழினுடைய பகுதி, யாழினுடைய அமைப்பு. சித்திரப்படத்துள் புக்கு செழுங்கோட்டின் மலர் புனைந்து மைத்தடங்கண் மணமகளிர் கோலம் போல் வனப்பு எய்தி பத்தரும் கோடும் ஆணியும் நரம்பும் என்று இத்திரத்து குற்றம் நீங்கிய யாழ் கையில் தொழுது வாங்கி. இப்போ யாழ் எப்படி இருக்கிறது என்று சொல்லிவிட்டு, அதாவது மணமகள் போல அலங்கரிக்கப்பட்ட மணமகள் போல அந்த யாழ் இருக்கான். சித்திரப்படத்துள் புக்கு செழுங்கோட்டின் மலர் புனைந்து மைத்தடங்கண் மணமகளிர் கோலம் போல் வனப்பு எய்தி பத்தரும் கோடும் ஆணியும் நரம்பும் என்று. இப்படி பத்தர் ஆணி கோடுங்கிறதுலாம் அதனுடைய உறுப்புகள். அந்த யாழ் சுத்தமான யாழ்னு சொல்றோம். அதில் குற்றம் குறை இல்லாது என்பதற்காக தான் சொல்றாரு. இத்திரத்து குற்றம் நீங்கிய யாழ் கையில் எப்படி வாங்குகிறாள் மாதவி சொல்றார். கையில் தொழுது வாங்கி, அங்க ஒரு ஏவலாளன் கொண்டு வரான், தொழுது கும்பிட்டு வாங்கிக்கிற அந்த யாழை. அதற்கு பிறகு என்ன பண்றா பாருங்க. பண்ணல் பரிவட்டனை ஆராய்தல் தைவரல் கண்ணிய செலவு விளையாட்டு கையூ நண்ணிய குறும்போக்கு என்று நாட்டிய எண்வகையால் இசையழி பண்பகையால் பரிவு தீர்ந்து. இவ்வளவும் அந்த யாழை வாசிக்கிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி செய்து பார்க்கணும். அதுதான் நீங்கள் இப்போ இசைக்கருவிகள்லாம் இசை நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு முன்னாடி என்னென்ன பண்ணுறாங்க பார்ப்பீங்க. 2000 ஆண்டுகளுக்கு முன்னால் சொல்லப்பட்டிருக்கிற செய்தியை பாருங்க, எவ்வளவு நாலேஜ் இது நமக்கு கொடுக்குதுன்னு. அடுத்து அந்த விரலால் எப்படி அந்த விரல் இருக்குன்னு சொல்றார் மாதவியினுடைய விரல். மரகத மணி தாழ் செறிந்த மணி காந்தள் மெல் விரல்கள், மரகத மணி தாழ் செறிந்த மணிக்காந்தள் மெல் விரல்கள், பயிர் வண்டின் கிளை போல பல் நரம்பின் மிசைப்படர, வார்தல் வடித்தல் உந்தல் உரழ்தல் சீருடன் உருட்டல் தெருட்டல் அள்ளல் ஏருடை பட்டடை என இசையோர் வகுத்த 8 வகையின் இசைக்கரணத்து. 8 வகை இசை தொழில்கள் என்று சொல்லப்படும். அந்த 8 வகை இசை தொழில்களையும் இப்ப சொன்ன பேரெல்லாம் அதுதான். அது இன்றைக்கும் நம்முடைய இசை நிகழ்ச்சிகளில் நடந்து கொண்டிருக்கிறது. இது இந்தியா பொது முழுமைக்குமான, அது இந்துஸ்தானி இசையாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, நம்முடைய தமிழ் இசையாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, எல்லா இசையிலும் இது எல்லாமே நடக்குது. அதனால தான். ஆனால் அதை அவ்வளவு ஏழியராக 2000 ஆண்டுக்கு முன்னாடி அவ்வளவு தெளிவாக பதிவு செய்திருக்கிறார் சிலப்பதிகாரத்தில். அப்போதான் 8 வகையின் இசை கரணத்து பட்ட வகைதன் செவியின் ஓர்த்து ஏவலன் பின் பாணிய யாது என கோவலன் கையாழீட்ட. மாதவி எல்லாம் செய்து வச்ச உடனே கோவலன் கையை யாழ நீட்டுறாரு, கையை நீட்டி யாழ கொடுன்னு கேட்டு அவர் வாசிக்க ஆரம்பிக்கிறாரு. வாசிக்க ஆரம்பிச்சு பாடுறாரு. பாடும் பொழுதே கங்கையும் காவிரியும் சேர்த்து பாடுகிறார். காவிரி கங்கை ரெண்டையும் சேர்த்து பாடுகிறார். திங்கள் மாலை வெண்குடையான் சென்னி செங்கோல் அது போச்சி கங்கை தன்னை புணர்ந்தாலும் புலவாய் வாழி காவேரி கங்கை தன்னை புணர்ந்தாலும் புலவாதொழிதல் கயல் கண்ணாய் மங்கை மாதர் பெரும் கற்பென்று அறிந்தேன் வாழி காவேரி என்று பாடத் தொடங்குகிறாள். அதற்கு பிறகு இறுதியிலே அவர்கள் 2 பேரும் பிரிந்து விடுவார்கள். இப்போ காலம் கருதி நான் கூத்தை பற்றி சில இதை சொல்ல விரும்புகின்றேன். கூத்தை பற்றி பேசுவதற்கு முன்னால் எவ்வளவு தூரம் நம்முடைய இசை பழமையானது, ஏன் அதை நம்ம முன்னாடி இசைன்னு சொல்கிறோம் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கான செய்திகளை எல்லாம் பார்த்தோம் என்று சொன்னால், இன்றைக்கு இசைக்கு மிக முக்கியமானது ஆலாபனைன்னு சொல்லுவோம். அதை எப்படி செய்ய வேண்டும், இசை ஒலிகள் எப்படி பிறக்கின்றன அப்படிங்கிறதெல்லாம் 2000 ஆண்டுகளுக்கு 2500 ஆண்டுகளுக்கு முன்னாடி நம்ம இதில் பதிவு செய்து வைத்திருக்கிறார்கள். அதெல்லாம் சொல்லணும்னா ரொம்ப நேரமாகும் என்ற வகையினால் ஒரே ஒரு இது மட்டும் சொல்றேன். இது இசை எல்லா உலக இசைக்கே பொருத்தமானது. அந்த இசை இலக்கணம் அதை தமிழ் இசைக்காக சொல்லப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. இது ஒரு 2500 ஆண்டுக்கு முன்னாடி எழுதப்பட்டது. சரிகம பதனி என்றெழுத்தால் தானம் வரி பரந்த கண்ணினாய் வைத்து தெரிவறிய 7 இசையும் தோன்றும் இவற்றுள்ளே பண் பிறக்கும் சூழ் முதலாம் சுத்த துளை. 7 இசை சரிகம பதனி, அது சப்தஸ்வரம் என்று நாம் சொல்றோம். அதை பற்றிய பாடல், அது எப்படி பிறக்குது என்பதற்கான இலக்கணம் எல்லாமே இங்கே சொல்லப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. இந்த கூத்து எப்படி பிறந்தது அப்படிங்கிறத கூத்த நூல் என்ற ஒரு நூல், அதுவும் மிக பழமையான நூல். அதிலிருந்து நான் ஒரு இதை சொல்லிட்டு, எப்படி இந்த நாட்டியம் நாடகம் எல்லாமே இதிலிருந்து தான் பிறந்தது என்பதை சொல்லி நிறைவு செய்கிறேன். இது கூத்த நூலில் சொல்லப்பட்டது. மோனத்து இறந்த முன்னோன் கூத்தில் உடுக்கையில் பிறந்தது ஓசையின் சுழலே, ஓசையில் பிறந்தது இசையின் உயிர்ப்பே, இசையில் பிறந்தது ஆட்டத்தின் இயல்பே, ஆட்டம் பிறந்தது கூத்தினது அமைவே, கூத்தில் பிறந்தது நாட்டிய கோப்பே, நாட்டியம் பிறந்தது நாடக வகையே. எழுத்தும் சொல்லும் இசையும் கூத்தும் பழுத்து நிறைவது பரநிலை என்ப, இசையுறு புணர்ச்சி இயல்பன மொழிப, தாளம் தன்னுமை தழுவிய குழல் யாழ் இழும் என பயில்வது இசை, இசை புணர்ச்சி பண்ணமை சொல்லும் பரப்புறும் யாப்பும் வண்ணமும் குழிப்பும் வார்ப்பும் தூக்கும் தம்முள் இசைத்தும் வசைத்தும் புணரும் ஆட்டம் பாட்டம் அவிநயம் என்ன மூவகை என்பர் கூத்தின் முறைமை ஆட்டம் பிறந்தது பாட்டம் பாட்டம் அதனிடை பிறந்தது அவிநய கூத்தே ஆட்டம் தட்டாம் பாட்டாம் பண்ணாம் யாப்பு கூத்தின் அவிநயம் என்ப ஆட்டம் அகமாம் பாட்டம் சுவையாம் ஆட்டம் உடலாம் பாட்டம் முகமாம் தாளம் பிறந்தது தன்னுமை தன்னுமை ஆழம் பிறந்தது பன்னிசை அவை தமிழ் கூடி பிறந்தது யாப்பின் கூத்தே குதித்தாடுவது கூத்தெனப்படும் அதில் பரதநாட்டியம் புறவை நகை வரி முதலிடை கடையன விதமே ஏழாகும். இவ்வாறு சொல்லிக்கொண்டே போகலாம். பல செய்திகளை ஒரு சின்ன கேப்சூல் கொடுக்குற மாதிரி இங்கே கொடுக்க வேண்டியதாக இருக்கிறது. இந்த வாய்ப்புக்கு நன்றி கூறி இந்த சங்கமத்தை ஏற்பாடு செய்து எல்லோரும் கண்டு கழிக்கக்கூடிய வகையில் ஏற்பாடு செய்த இந்த இந்திய அரசுக்கும் இந்திய அரசின் பிரதம அமைச்சர் அவர்களுக்கும் நன்றி கூறி விடைபெறுகிறேன். நன்றி.
Nari sir, thank you for this wonderful rendering. Next in line, the speaker we have is Shri R. Gopu. And since the time is less, I'll just give a brief about him. R. Gopu was born and brought up in Madras. He obtained a computer engineering degree from Arulmigu Kala Sangamam College of Engineering. As part of the Tamil Heritage Trust, he has attended several site seminars. He helped organize its various programs, including two-day conference on history and heritage called Lecture Kachiris. He has conducted tours of Mamallapuram, Kanchipuram, Odisha, Ajanta Ellora, Tanjavur, Kumbakonam, and the Madras Egmore Museum for several groups, including schools and colleges. In 2016, Ramo Endowments bestowed on him the Vedavalli Memorial Heritage Award for the service to his culture. He is one of the co-founders of the Varasimhara Science Forum, which conducts monthly lectures on science for the public. He conducts courses on Indian astronomy and mathematics on the Pallav Grantham script for the general public. Since December 2020, he teaches 2 courses at Savitha Engineering College, one on Indian astronomy and mathematics and 2 on inventions and discoveries. I now invite Sri R. Gopu. He will be talking about how to study a temple. So you have brief 8 minutes, and then extend it to another 1 minute or so.
Sure.
I'm sorry, apologies. We would like to felicitate Sri R. Gopuji with the memento, a book, and Uttariya.
Give me your mic. Yeah. வணக்கம், நமஸ்தே, குட் மார்னிங். அவ்வளோ அழகாக தமிழ் பேசினதுக்கு அப்புறமா நான் தமிழ் பேசினா நிறைய இனிப்பான பாயசத்தை சாப்பிட்டு லேகியம் சாப்பிட்ற மாதிரி இருக்கும். When I speak in Tamil, people want me to speak in English. When I speak in English, people want me to speak in Tamil. So the Tamil people want me to help explain to them. The rest of the country wants me to explain Tamil in English to them. So I will talk mostly in English with the brief bits of, but I won't be speaking. Our Shilpis will be speaking. So don't worry. our Shilpis and Stapatis with their chisels will be speaking. You might order, what is there to, who is there to, why do you need a presentation to say how to see a temple, how to study a temple? Can you recognize the painting on the left? How about the one on the right? It is Ajanta. What is it? What is it called? Mona Lisa you recognize. What about the Ajanta painting? What is it? What is its name? It is correct. It is Shaddanta Jataka. It is something called Shaddanta Jataka. Most of us don't know. Can you name one of the 28 major paintings in Ajanta? The 11 major paintings in Tanjavur temple. What is the painting in Sittanavasal? We know European painting that's 500 years old, but we don't know the Indian painting that is 1800 years old. So this is why we have to study, Do you recognize the tower on the left? Eiffel Tower. What about this temple? It is not Konarak. No, it's not Puri Jagannath either. It is not Kashi Vishwanatha. But the architecture is very similar. It is actually a temple in a place called Udaipur in Madhya Pradesh. It is the Nilakanteshwara temple, also called Udayeshwara temple. It was built by Udaya, the son of Raja Bhoja, the famous Bhoja. It is one of the most beautiful North Indian temples of the Nagari architecture, but we don't know it. We all know the Eiffel Tower. This is why we are doing this program. You have one grand temple. Which one is that? Tanjavur Rajaraja Choleswara temple. Rajaraja was so thrilled by this temple, he gave the Stapati his title. The Stapati of the temple was called Rajaraja Kunjaramalla Peruntachan. He gave his own title to the Stapati. Here is a small temple under a banyan tree. Both are worshipping Shiva. This is also constructed by a Stapati. Is the Shiva in the small temple any less than the Shiva in the large temple? No, we don't judge like that, no. Just one temple is small, one temple is big. So why do we go to that temple and admire, but we take it for granted, the small temples? Murti, Parsi, Kirti, talk about it. God is the same regardless of the size of the grandeur of the temple. So there's more to the temple than just the spirituality and the religion. Our senior professor is going to talk about the spiritual aspect. I will talk about other aspects that we miss. So besides the blessings of a God, what do we seek in a temple? Do we see these? The architecture, sculpture, painting, the inscriptions. We take them all for granted when we walk around, or we see but we don't observe. And so this is kind of what we are going to talk a little bit about. Architecture is called Vastu Shastra or Kattamana Kalai. Let's look at this. One is a North Indian temple like that one. One is a South Indian temple like this one. They look different. The architecture is basically the same. It is just the implementation that is different. Right? One is straight line, that one is called a Rekha. This one is called a Dravida architecture. In fact, have you heard of this one? Have you seen this? That's a third type of architecture. This is in a place called Morena in Madhya Pradesh. It's a Yogini temple for 64 Shaktis. 64 Shakti temple, it's 64 Yogini temple. Chaushat Yogini it's called. And this temple, does it remind you of something? It should remind you of our parliament building, right? Parliament building is modeled on this temple. So we have three different architectures, major architectures. We generally don't study that. So you have a Dravida architecture, a Nagari architecture, and a Vesara architecture. We don't even know these terms generally because it's unfortunately not part of our education. The Shilpa Shastras themselves say this. I'm not creating, no European scholar has named this. The Shilpa Shastras say the temples built in Himalayas to Vindhyas, that region, are generally of the Nagari architecture. From Vindhyas to Krishna river of the Vesara architecture, and Krishna river to Kanyakumari are of something called the Dravida architecture. These are terms used by the Stapatis in the Shilpa Shastra. So let's look about it. Primarily the Nagari architecture has a linearity to it, a verticality, where the Dravida architecture has a stepped feel to it. There is that Vimanam, not the temple, but the Gopuram also is inspired by a similar aspect of it. Now you look at these two of these temples, Gangakonda Cholapuram and Tanjavur, built by father and son. Raja built that, his son Rajendra built this. You can see they are very similar, but you see one small difference? This one is slightly curved, right? It looks like an arch like this. Whereas the Tanjavur temple looks like a pyramidal triangle kind of a structure. If you notice carefully, too, you can't see them side by side. They are 60 kilometers apart. In a presentation or a video, you can see them side by side, and you can notice the difference. So this is one of the reasons why we are doing some kind of a program like this to give you a introduction to variations. Now we can say a temple is just a building. What is their architecture? It has structural elements in different forms, shapes. Aesthetic evolved. If you look at it, what is the elements of a building? A roof, a window, a wall, a door, a floor. Temple also has this, no? There is a roof, there is a window, there is a wall, there is a door and a floor. But obviously, a temple is not a residence for you and me. It is not a house. It is not an office building. It is not a military office or anything like that. It has some very special value. In fact, these features have words. That's why they are all so beautiful. Our houses, nobody's house is this beautiful, right? We have words for this. The architectural terms are there. There is a kalasam on top. There is a shikaram, that is the element that crowns the vimanam of the temple. There is an insect called the grivam. Grivam means neck. The neck of the temple, where sometimes there are sculptures and sometimes there are not. Then you have something called the prastaram, like a sunshade or a rain shade, right? Then you have the padam or the bitti, that is the wall structure of the temple. And then you have the base, that is the adhishtanam of the temple. If you look at a Nagari temple, it's exactly very similar. The terms are similar, but the appearance is different. They have a kalasa. They have something called an amalaka, then there is a grivam. The shikaram is a much extended part here. The base wall is called a janga and the lower part is called a padam. So it's just the terminology different, the structure is different, but the 6 elements of the temple, whether Nagari, Dravida, Vaishra, whatever else, they are very similar. You can even see it if you have something like this in a different temple. Now this is a 1-thala vimanam, this is a Dvi-thala vimana, 2-level vimana, okay? This is a 13-level vimana, okay? Magnificent temple like this. When you see something like this, can we say it is just a building? No, obviously not, right? That is what we are doing. That is what we are trying to study. A temple is far more than a building. Structurally, it may be a building, but in conception, it is a house for God, not just another building. And it's a place for devotion, ritual, celebration, so locus for the community, a retreat from tumult, an expression of the soul, chiseled into beauty by skill, pride, passion, and dedication of the stapatis, and by sculptors, devotees, patrons long forgotten. And you find this even in the street corner temples. There is a beauty to it. The 6-part division of a temple, even in your street corner Amman temple or Vinayak temple, you will find this Shadvargam. We just haven't trained our brains to think that way, because that's not part of our education system. And it's not just there. This is a street side temple in Bhubaneswar. It also has all the same elements, right? Today, modern temple with tiles, mosaic tiles is built. It also has this beautiful elements. So that is architecture. I'm giving you a 10-minute thing for like a full day workshop you can do on this. What about sculpture? I'm going to show you 2 portraitures. One is Amar Chitrakada cover, Ganga Avatara, right? Ganga comes and descends on Shiva. The other is a Ravi Verma painting. Shiva stands there and Ganga flows like a waterfall to his head. But these are modern interpretations. What in the classical thing, how did they say? In our classical, look at this picture. You see, in this picture, Shiva is not standing with a waterfall pouring down. He is saying, Ganga, don't be so arrogant. One strand of my hair is enough to contain you. So in our Chola Pallava sculptures, he is only extending one strand of hair, and Ganga falls into that and she gets trapped for 2 years, and poor Bhagirath has to do another penance to get it. That's why we call Bhagirath Prayatanam, because he had to do Prayatanam after Prayatanam after Prayatanam to get Ganga down. And this is shown in different sculptures. That left corner is a Pallava sculpture, the middle one is this Chola sculpture, this one is a Rashtrakuta sculpture from Ellora. This one shows both the descent into his hair and then Visarjanam from there and so on. So when we look at the sculptures of the ancient temples, we see certain aesthetic and beauty that we tend to miss in our modern art and portraiture. So for example, some murtis are equally posed, it is called Samabhanga. Some sculptures you have a slight bending of the body, that is called abhanga. And in some you have enormous twist and turn. In this Gajasamhara Murti, for example, he is completely twisting his body around. His face is one way direction, his body is one direction, his legs are another direction. This is called Atibhanga. This is how we look at a sculpture. When we look at when you know the vocabulary of sculpture, we can appreciate the beauty of the classical art. So when you go to see a temple, don't just go to the Murti, do a darshan and come back, but see all the sculptures, all the beauty, all the history that is there in the temple, right? And dance and sculpture and war, a lot of the sculptures have Bharatanatyam deeply incorporated into them. In Mamallapuram, there is a special sculpture where there is shown Shiva teaching Bharatanatyam to a rishi called Tandu. That is why the dance is called Tandava. From Tandu comes Tandava, right? There is and you can see various aspects. That one is Shiva doing Tandava. That pose is called Alida. The legs this way, forward both directions. Here it is Narasimha battling Hiranya, the famous episode. There also doing Alida. This is Kirata Arjuniam, Shiva and Arjuna battling. And this one they are facing in the opposite direction, so this is called Pratyalida. So there are beautiful aspects of classical, the dance elements also incorporated in our sculpture, and we should probably study. Then the third thing that we neglect is inscriptions. What is there in the temple inscriptions? We tend to not to, because they are in very old writing. We don't know those writings. But there's so much things. There's poetic verses, there's land grants, religious information, administrative information, judgments have been recorded, law and order, granting of taxes, exemption from taxes. If there is a flood, the farmers get 5 years exemption for managing that flood. All that kind of historical information is there. Taxation, coins, foreign trade, merchant guilds, people who have all medicine, education, all kinds of information is there in the inscriptions. So there are a lot of extraordinary inscriptions. This is one of the famous temples in Khajuraho. It's famous for its sculptures. Right, I'll finish. And this has this magnificent inscription that people don't read. Right? I'll give you another one. There is a temple called Ganesharatha in Mahabalipuram. Its actual name is not Ganesharatha. It actually had a Shivalinga inside. And it was called Atyanta Kama Pallava Ishwara Graham by its builder, whose name was Rajasimha Pallava. Rajasimha Pallava called himself Atyanta Kama Pallava. That is the Pallava of endless desires. So he built all those magnificent monuments because everyone reflected a different desire of his to show that temple. In this temple, there is a beautiful 11th stanza poem in Sanskrit, in the Pallava Grantha script. And he says, Tenedam Karitam Tunga, Dhurjater Mandiram Shubham, Prajanamishta Siddhyartam, Shankarim Bhutim Michata. You will understand half the words even though it is in Sanskrit. Correct? Tenedam Karitam Tunga. In the Koilai, this Rajasimha built this temple for Dhurjata. It is another name for Shiva, to fulfill the desire of the people. Prajanam Ishtam Siddhyartam, Shankarim Bhutim Vichata, to receive the blessings of the Lord Shiva. So that is what he states. He gives you a clear explanation. Our inscriptions are in so many formats. Cheppum Modi Padinetudayal Yanil Sindanai Undudayal, Bharati said. So you can see the beauty of all the varieties of lipis, not only in your 100 rupee note or 1 rupee note. You can see it also in the inscriptions of the temples. You will see all kinds of beautiful inscriptions. And Nagari from the 5th century, Brahmi from the 1st century, you can see all of that. One of my favorites is another temple built by Rajasimha called the Kailasanada temple in Kanchipuram. And in this one single sub-shrine, he has a Nagari inscription on top, a Grantham inscription in the middle, and a calligraphic Nagari inscription at the base of the temple with a lot of titles of including words like Atyanta Kama, and all that, Kanchi Mahamani and so that. This Grantham is very important because we don't know one historical fact. Our Grantham script was used in so many countries, in so many countries, also in East, Thailand, Burma, Cambodia and all that. You see the inscriptions. For writing Sanskrit inscriptions, they use Grantham, and their script also they modified that Grantham. So our script went to that country to give that this thing. So before I finish, I want to show you. You see this calligraphic Nagari inscription? This is what I have embroidered in my kurta. One says Atyanta Kama, the other says Itihasa Priya. He was a lover of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So I want to show you this. So there are other things. If you go to some places, there are very beautiful locations for these temples. This is Badami Rashtakota temple. Look at the place, look at the location. What a choice. This is Vijayalaya Choleswaram in Pudukkottai. Most people have. Our people are so this thing. If they don't go to temples, they want temples to come to them. So some people have even designed lorries to look at temples and be mobile. Long before Swiggy, they are doing this thing also. Okay. So this is just a brief introduction to temple architecture, inscriptions and sculpture. There are lots of videos on the internet. நாங்க தமிழ்ல நிறைய ப்ரோக்ராம் பண்றோம். அதுல நீங்க தமிழ் விரும்புவவர்கள் அதை பார்த்துக் கொள்ளலாம். இந்த வாய்ப்பை எனக்கு வழங்கிய பனாரஸ் இந்து யூனிவர்சிட்டிக்கும் நம்முடைய அரசாங்கத்திற்கும் இந்த காஷி தமிழ் சங்க அமைப்பாளர்களுக்கும் என் நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டு என்னுடைய தமிழ் பாரம்பரிய அறக்கட்டளை நண்பர்களுக்கும் என் நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டு விடைபெறுகிறேன். வணக்கம். Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really wonderful to hear from you that how to study a temple. And this, I'm very sure that what he has said, we know the modern paintings, but we don't know our own heritage, which is so many years old. So I think we should feel pride in talking about our own heritage and culture. So next in line, we have Shri S. Gyana Prakash. So I would request the students to please felicitate him with a memento, a book, and an uttariyan. Shri S. Gyan Prakash has Bachelor's of Engineering degree in Computer Science from Erode Senguthar Engineering College. Deeply interested in all aspects of Indian culture and history and trying to document it in all possible ways, he holds a vast collection of artifacts related to Indian art, architecture, music, dance, painting, cinema, etc. in the form of audio, video, and books. I now invite Shri S. Gyana Prakash, who is going to talk about knowledge forms in temple architecture.
So, Vanakkam. So, we have a lot of time restriction. So, we have a time restriction, so I would like to give just a brief intro of the Shilpa text related to Tamil temples in specific. Okay, so let us start. So to start with, so it's not working. Working. Okay. Okay. You just skip it. Next. So we have a Tamil saying, "Alayam illada uril kudi irikade." So this temple is very much an integral part of Tamil culture. So we have lot of sources from the ancient time which makes reference to architecture. To start with Sangam period, in Tolkapiyam we have fivefold geographical divisions. So each geographical division is assigned a deity. You might have heard Varuna, Indra, Kotravai, like that. And the trees in the Sthala Vrichas are mentioned in Sangam literature, where the deities are enshrined. And let me start with an inscription in a place called Mandagapattu near Kanchipuram, where the king says he is constructing a temple for Trimurtis without the use of lime, mortar. You please skip to next. I would like to show that inscription. Next one. Yeah, you please skip. Yes. So this is the inscription. This is one of the earliest temple where you find that this was excavated without the use of lime, mortar, and wood. So from this we can understand that the temples which were before this period were made of wood and bricks. So next one. So this is the temple. Next. So this is that inscription. This is in Pallava Grantha script. So this is how the temple is constructed. Yeah. So from Vedic period we have several references. We have architectural references in Vedas, Puranas, important text with respect to architecture and sculpture. So it has detailed instructions on how to choose a site and what are the rituals and ceremonies related in the temple construction. And we have primarily two sections of Agamas, Saiva Agamas and Vaishnava Agamas. So today Shilpins primarily construct these Agamas. And apart from Agamas, we have hundreds of Shilpa texts available. So I'm going to concentrate primarily on southern part. So you please go to the last. Yes. Previous one. Yes. So we have a book called Shilpa Ratnakaram. It is published in Tamil by one Kumaraswamy Achari. He mentions there are 97 texts that were prevailed during the ancient time, but we don't have many. So I'm just going to highlight what are the important texts that is consulted now. So we have one published manuscripts with the names. These are these texts. There are 32 texts with the author name. So these are the names of the text that is available. And we have one unpublished manuscript. It's called Manusara. It lists 28 Shilpa Shastras. So these are the names. And we have something called Uba Shilpa Shastra, where it is for ready instant reference. So this is also used by Shilpins. We have some 7 Uba Shilpa Shastras. One among them is the Shilpa Ratna. It is by a Kerala author. His name is Kumara. So it has reference to both architecture as well as sculpture. It has 2 parts. So it has reference from the main text, that is Mayamata and Kashyapa and Ishana Gurudeva Paddhati. So these are the 7 Upa Shilpas which is being used now. Next one. So primarily we have 2 different schools, southern and north. So in southern part we have Manasara, Mayamata and Shilparatna. These are the important texts. In northern part we have the works of Vishwakarma, Samaranga Sutradhara and Aparachita Pracha. So these are the important texts that has been used now. And in the southern part, the architectural text, Vastu texts are mainly divided into 4 parts: civil architecture, temple architecture, sculpture and paintings and military architecture. As the very name is evident, you can identify civil architecture is related to house construction and temple is related to temple architecture, and this military architecture is for forts and all defensive constructions. And finally, for painting and sculpture, we have lot of reference of how the costumes and ornaments has to be presented and how the animals and birds are depicted, and we have lot more reference. Next. So we have, I'm going to just give a brief outline of the main three texts, Manasara, Mayamatam and Shilparatnam. This is one of the most important work. We have 70 chapters in this. Out of this, 50 deals with architecture and remaining with the sculpture. So it has in detail description of how to choose a site and what type of soil is required, and how to make the foundation, what type of material should be used and what not related to construction. It's one of the most authentic texts. And next one. This is Mayamatam. This is kind of extension of Manasaram. And next one, Shilparatna. Shilparatna, this is also an extension of Mayamatam, but it has more references from the Agama. So these three texts are the most prominent text that has been used by the Shilpis. Next one. So in Tamil we have two texts related to architecture. One is Shilparatna, another one is Sarvartha Shilpa Sindhamani. So it has some 1400 verses. And also Mayan is hailed much by the Shilpins of Tamil Nadu, and he finds reference in the Shilapadigaram and Manimegalai. So these Vastu texts are living tradition, and it is very much applicable to the modern time, and it will continue to be in the forthcoming centuries as well. And I would like to show some fine piece of architecture which is in Tamil Nadu. Please. So we have Pallava, Pandya, Cholan, Vijayanagara and Nayak's constructions mainly in Tamil area. So I would just like to present a few samples. So these are in Kanchi. So this is called Iravasthanam, this temple. Next one. And this is Vaikunta Perumal temple. This has 3 tiers. We have 3 forms of Vishnu in that particular temple, and it is completely made of sandstone. It is this is one of the most beautiful temple. This is called Adimanam Adiyarbudam. The builder Rajasimha, he himself called this temple as Adimanam and Adiyarbudam. It is one of the most beautiful temple, and everyone should see this temple. So these are a few more pictures from the same temple. Next one. Here you please continue. These are just few samples. These are Chola period temple. This is Pullamangai. So everyone knows this. This is Pragdishwara temple. This is Tiruchotrathurai. This temple is called Tiruchotrathurai. It is from Aditya Chola period. This is from Pudukkottai region. These are all early Chola temples. This place called Visalur. Next. Yeah. You just show the slides. These are Pandya, few Pandya temples. So these are all Vijayanagara and Nayak temples. This is Ekambareshwara temple. This is Srivalliputturu Andal temple. Thank you. Thanks everyone for the opportunity.
Thank you, Shri S. Gyanaprakash ji, for such a wonderful presentation. We have with us Professor Rana P.B. Singh, and I request the volunteers to please felicitate him with a memento, a book and an uttariyan. Professor Rana P.B. Singh is a cultural geographer and an expert in heritage studies at Banaras Hindu University. Now he's a retired professor. He's the founding president of the Society of Pilgrimage Studies, Society of Heritage Planning and Environmental Health, Indo-Nordic cultural associations, etc. He has been involved in studying, performing, and promoting the heritage planning, ecotourism, and rural studies, and has contributed a lot on the cultural and heritage sides of Kashi. So I think you would be happy to listen to him.
I can say welcome and welcome to Kashi. So in a way I have to say I am Kashiwala since last 50 years. And nothing like a project, but I am involved in several things to understand Kashi from both sides. Because Kashi is city of Shiva, and Shiva having two forms. One is Bhairava, very angry, just to punish. Other is Shiva Balarupa. He's so childlike, innocent, so you can do anything and then she will not take care. So Varanasi having the two faces. Okay, this is the general way people here perceive Kashi. Kashi having 108 names, according to Brahmavaivarta Purana. What we tried to see that how these names are associated to particular images of Kashi. So we have prepared the map. We are always related to mapping system. We have prepared about 1,000 such maps. So only 2-3 points, because time is only 5 minutes, so maybe only 5 points. The first thing is that just like 108, rosary, you have the mala and you can count your beads, 108. Same system, you have the 3 lokas, 3 mythical realms, the heaven, earth and underworld. You can multiply 324, okay? Already 324 forms of Shiva is here. We have prepared the map. First thing. Then Shiva can't do any work without the mother goddess. So same number is 324 mother goddess like Parvati, Uma, Maheshwari, Vaheshwari, all these names. So we have prepared all the detailed maps and very sophisticated, because this was a National Science Foundation, a US project for 7 years. So we have measured in millimeters, your decimal type like this. And all the measurements done at least 200 times for 7 years. So such precise map. This is the one thing that how numerical system related to that. Now another point, we are having more, those who are closely related to Sanatana Dharma, they are using mala and count like this, okay? You know the scientific meaning of that, and that is related to Kashi. It is the first time, according to Atharva Veda, that is the integration of space and time. Time is represented by 12, Khataritu, and then the 2 sides, so you know the 12. And then space is 4 main direction, 4 cardinal, and the center, 4 plus 4 plus 1, 9, 12 into 9, 108. So this way, the way you count this, then you are for 1 year making the whole journey. Exactly that has been transferred in the pilgrimage journey here. There are 52 pilgrimage journeys. So this is the one of the unique things. When we have measured scientifically, we find like this. The other point is that the issue you are trying to raise this question, why this particular temple is only here? Why not there? That was the question raised by famous space scientist Kim Malville, my Guruji, that why it is there and why it is some having alignment to other. This way we have tried to study 7 cities of North India, and then we find that ancient sages have perceived very closely to the whole system of the cosmos. That's why they had been plotted. It is nothing like that any temple is anywhere. I can cite only one example, time is not here, and I have not brought my slides, etc. Just now we have seen Khajuraho, some of the scenes. If you ask any common person, Khajuraho means, oh, erotic symbols and that beauty and all this. That was not our angle. Our angle was different. Out of 23, 2 sides, one deserted, one outside. So already 21 sides, and the description says that sun rays going straight way. That was the question, really, to what extent? Then we have done that survey. And then we find exactly on Shivaratri, that is the Lord Shiva marriage day, the sun rays start, this is 7 years calculation, and decimal 5 digit. So it is nothing like, all published in scientific journal. So all the 21 temples, the main images, the sun rays going to touch like this. This is the way. In terms of Kashi, there is a place called Lolar that is not highlighted. On 14th of August, exactly the sunlight is going like this, and then that says that it creates a special type of force. That's why a tradition developed that people go worship to have a son or daughter, something like that. That is the one tradition. There is another tradition which is unique. First time in the history of science that we find what is the exact, you can say, north on earth plotted, that is in Banaras. And that was described in the textual tradition, but a scientist say that let us check it, and then it had been checked. Exactly that is decimal 5 digit of millimeter correct, and that's why it is published that why people are doing those rituals. So generally, let me conclude like this, there's so many things, what we think these are only described now. This had been very scientific meaning, and that's why it is done like this. One last point, because the name is Kashi, and we are talking about religious things. But according to scientific thing, Kasha iti Kashi, where the cosmic light concentrate, that area to be called as Kashi. This is our interpretation. Okay? Then when you are drawing a circle, two things are required, a center and radius. That was the question. We find in the text, we've gone in the field, then we have measured that, and that is exact circle, and then we find inscriptional sources that goes to 5th century. Nowhere in the world people were knowing circle. On the earth, that is the only one representation. But many people do the pilgrimage. They don't know all this, but there is a mystery. So this is the simple thing, that many of the things, what we think this is the only ritual, only something going on, pilgrimages or tourism, whatever it may be, but it has very strong fundamental basis of science. So we can say one side is out, this is not mythological literature. This is scientifically based metaphysical literature, not mythological literature. Our literature is not mythology, it is metaphysical. And other science is pure science, you meet together, and that's why that we call it Sangamam. Meeting of the two forces to make it unique. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving us the introduction about how it is not just an architecture, but it is a metaphysical architecture. I think everybody will agree to it that, you know, it's just not art, it's just not architecture, it's just not performing arts. It has a very, again, metaphysical meaning behind it. It has got some spiritual meaning behind it. And the present generation has to understand the importance of it so that we can take forward the legacy for the future generation and, you know, make the whole world aware about the importance of our heritage. I'm sure everybody would again agree to the point that such kind of lectures, in just 10 minutes, it cannot be, you know, so concise. It has to be more elaborate. We need to have more discourses on this so that we understand the importance of it. But I think the speakers are here. You can exchange the phone numbers, you can exchange the email, and continue the interaction with them for, you know, further knowledge transfer. Now, with these words, I would like to thank all the speakers present here on the stage for their wonderful deliberations. And I now request for a group photo for the session, and then we will disperse for this session. Thank you so much.